Welcome to the EarthWorks podcast, where our team will share the jargon of carbon from many of our turf friends from the past 30 years.
Hi, everybody. This is Joel Simmons, and this is the EarthWorks podcast. And we got a special viewing today of a couple friends that have been, one of which have been with us a year ago. Was it a year ago? I think it was about a year ago, right after the Women's Open. We had Lorabeth West back then, who is now Lorabeth Catterson. Congratulations. And I'm really excited to have Madison Rudsinski from Paradise Valley Country Club joining us as well. I got to see both of these folks at this year's U.S. Open. You guys have been the volunteer champions of a lot of different things. But Lorabeth, let me start with you, since you've been with us before. You're working out at Hillcrest Country Club with our dear friend Matt Mullenberg, and who has also been on the EarthWorks podcast. Wonderful country club. And again, congratulations on getting married. And lots of things have changed in the last year that we actually talked.
Lots of things, yeah.
You want to talk about Italy? Let's just go right to that. This was her honeymoon in Italy, and she got stuck there for COVID.
We got stuck with COVID, and, for better or for worse. And Dan, my husband, he got it first, and I was negative, and you can't fly. So it looked like we were going to take an extra 5 days there, and they really want you to stay. They really want you to stay 10. And we were like, oh man, we can't afford 10 days, because we were also stuck in Rome over Easter weekend. So it was not a cheap extra stay for sure. Wow. And we are just now, that was mid-April, around the same time. We're just now starting to get our insurance claims back on it. So like 3-4 months later.
Oh, but God. Did you have a place to stay? I mean, when you get stuck, I've talked to a lot of people that have had that situation where they were traveling, got stuck, and they didn't have a place to stay. What did you guys do?
Luckily, we were okay. There was still availability. It was just like price was obviously a big concern just because of the time, it being Easter. But there was a lot of our friends were there with us too. We all had a wedding earlier in the week, and we probably all got it from each other. And they were like, your passports are going to be flagged. Like, there was just a lot of stuff that didn't really even happen. Like, nobody knew, like there wasn't, nobody flagged your passport. It wasn't like that. So we got places to stay, but I felt bad because my friends didn't get travel insurance. So any extra money they had to spend, my one friend got stuck in London. At least we were stuck in Italy. Yeah. London was not a cheap extra.
Yeah, no. Sure. It's a fun town, though. It's a great town if you ever had a chance to go there.
Lots of fish and chips.
Yeah, exactly. Good Indian food, though, in England. Let's talk. Let me talk to you real quickly. And Madison, I don't mean to leave you hanging, but Hillcrest Country Club, tell everybody a little bit about this place. There's some great history here and some cool stories. And you guys have been doing a lot of work there since you've been there.
Yeah, so it was a Willie Watson original golf course, and then Kyle Phillips redesign in 2019. Really big renovation. Went from 25 acres of fairways to 54 acres of Bermuda grass fairways, with 41 acres of ryegrass rough, and then 4 acres of bent grass greens. We have really terrible water quality.
Yes, you do.
Which gives us terrible soil quality. So
yes, it does.
We've been working through a lot of that with injection systems. We're actually right now getting ready to drill a couple more wells and get a RO system put in so that we can get our water a little bit better. Yeah, so it's been a big project. And, we just had aerification week last week, and we have some of the best grass that we've had in 3 years, and makes a lot of it worth it because it's been a lot of work, but the challenge is good. And we just started flying with Green Sight. I passed my drone test, which
did you? Good. We've had him on the podcast too.
It is not an easy feat, because let me tell you, trying to figure out flying maps, I can talk turf grass, but flight maps, it's different. So I have a lot of respect for it, but it's really interesting to see like the way that we've programmed using the Toro Precision Sense, and now we have Field Scout soil sensors in the ground, and when we fly the drone, it all works. So once Rainbird and all those companies can integrate, and I can fly the drone and it sets the water through Rainbird, and we'll really be talking.
No, that is really very, very cool. Yeah. I didn't realize you guys were doing all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, Matt is really big into like the technology and like the sustainability factor. We have some of the Husqvarna little robot mowers right now, and they're taking over our short course, which has helped a lot in labor. It helps our sprayers get out ahead. It keeps the grass maintained, and the membership really likes to see all that stuff going. So it's great to have their support with it as well.
So the membership supports all this technology.
Yeah. Well, if you think about it, we can buy, 5 or 6 of these little electric mowers, and they can mow 24 hours a day and they don't make noise, or we spend $100,000 in an operator and have that mower mowing all day, loud noise machine, where now we have these robotic mowers and that person can edge cart paths or fill divots while the mowers are mowing. So it frees up a lot of labor because we have a lot of landscape, and those fine details are the hardest things to get to. And when you're short on labor, that's where you're going to miss. You're going to be like, okay, we'll get to the landscape plants later. We'll edge that landscape bed later. And now we're freeing up operators, freeing up mowers. You get a little bit more of that done. So it's been really nice. And now that the labor market, people are looking for jobs again out in California, we've been able to, we're almost full on our roster, which is nice. It makes a big difference. We can see that stuff is getting done again, and it feels good.
So it sounds like you're a big advocate of these mowers, these robotic
mowers.
Oh,
yeah. I love it.
I didn't realize that they were quiet. I didn't realize that was one of the benefits, is that they're not making noise. I guess that makes sense. I never even thought of it.
These little Husqvarna mowers, it's no bigger than a Roomba. And what mows it is like the size of a Frisbee. It's got to be 8-10 inches around. And then there's little razors, like a little razor like you put in a box blade, and there's 3 of them. It's incredible. It's the best cut. It cuts the grass like a laser beam. It's insane.
Oh, that's very cool. I was doing some homework on Hillcrest, and I didn't know this, and I don't know if you know this, but it was a very popular country club back in the day from the West Coast comedian crowd, and it's been given credit for the famous Groucho Marx line. Do you know this? The famous Groucho Marx line, which was, "I refuse to join any club that would have me as a member." All the clubs around you refused him, and he joined Hillcrest because of that.
Yeah.
So right after this famous line, Groucho Marx joins Hillcrest, and Hillcrest became this hub of some very famous Jack Benny, Milton Berle, a lot of famous people that were members and would sit around the big round table in your club.
We have a tournament every year called the Round Table, and the flag has an embroidery of the comedian sitting at the table.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that. That's very cool.
Yeah.
Is there a T-shirt that says that? If there is, I want one. Put my name down. I'll take one.
Yeah.
Madison, let me kind of get to you, and we've not had a chance to really talk to you, but you're working at Paradise Valley Country Club with Rob Collins, who has been there for quite a while, right? And the property is just north of Scottsdale. You're in the middle of the desert. It's got to be blazing hot right now. I can't even imagine. I remember our agronomist, Kevin Hicks, spent many years out in Desert Forest, and he tells me this story. One of his assistants came to him after him being there from Minnesota for a while and saying, "You're going to get claustrophobic from here." And he didn't know what that meant. And what it ended up meaning was there's never any change other than high, bright skies, and it gets claustrophobic. So I don't know if you've had that experience yet, but give me a little rundown as to your background and how you got into this business.
My background, I'm originally from Illinois. It's a little small farming town out there. High school, everybody was involved in like FFA. We had culture classes, and high school that we do dual credit through like Highland Community College in Freeport, Illinois. So they were very adamant about the ag side of things. And that,
were you showing cows and goats and stuff?
No, I did not get that involved in the animal side of things. I was more plants and just going to the different FFA events and everything, but I did not show any sort of cattle or livestock.
Oh, darn.
That kind of opened the door for me to go to college for horticulture and floral design. I was really into art, so that was kind of my idea to combine like my artistic side. Was going for floral design, so I was doing people's weddings and stuff.
So you wanted to be you wanted to do floral work?
Yes, and I was for a while. I was working in a floral shop. I was doing people's weddings like 2018, 2019, and I got an internship at a golf club, Prairie View Golf Club in Byron, Illinois, and I was doing the bedding plant designs for their course. And that was right around when COVID started, and they didn't have a big staff and they needed help with golf maintenance. So I was helping out with that. They were the first ones to get me on my first mower. I think
Really?
I did mowing tees there and raking bunkers, and that kind of got me into that. So when I made the decision to move out to Phoenix, that kind of set in stone. I was like, okay, I can apply to some golf courses. And like, I actually really liked that. And I applied to quite a few. I think I applied to like 7, and Paradise Valley Country Club was the only one that called me back. And
Really?
Did, because Rob was like, do you have any interest in training to be an assistant? He's like, I see you have a background in horticulture. It's like, it's a related field. Like, is that something that would interest you? And at first I was kind of like, no, like I'll eventually get back into the floral design. But then I gave it a go, and I've been there 2 years now, and I'm loving everything I've gotten to do in my 2 years.
All right. So I got to ask you 2 questions. What was it like the first day on the mower? I mean, when they stuck you on that mower, you had to be petrified. I would have been petrified.
Oh, I was nervous. I asked a lot of questions. I still ask a lot of questions. That's just how I learned. But yeah, I was nervous. It's a big old mower. I've gotten my mom's mower stuck in ditches many times. So I was like, oh man, I can't get this stuck. It's not mine. But it wound up, it was super easy. I loved doing it, and just kind of clicked.
Were you in a vocational program in high school? Is that what you were? FFA was it a vocational, or was it part of the normal high school? Were you a VOAG person?
No, it was just part of our high school curriculum.
Okay. This is a little known fact of me, but I spent at least 1 year as an FFA teacher, and I had 2 production greenhouses, and half of my class wanted to become floriculturists. It was a very mixed group of students, and it was kind of cool. The only problem I had was I had to go in and water every day. And one of the stories I tell often is we were growing a crop of poinsettias, and I'd walk down the row, and every 6th pot, I would see these little seedlings coming up. And I'm like, I'm roguing them out. And then after about 4 or 5 pots, I realized what the seeds were, and they were highly illegal. and all of a sudden in my mind, I'm thinking, oh my God, there's a bunch of kids doing this. So I pulled the biggest bully into my classroom and said, look, if this doesn't stop, I'm calling the police and telling them you did it. Well, you can't do that. You don't know that. No, I don't know that you did it. But if I tell the cops that you did it, the cops are going to believe the teacher over you. So you find out who did it and stop it. And it never happened again. But anyway, I digress. I don't know why I even brought that up. And that's a true story. But and I spent many years as a 4-H instructor too. So I know exactly where you're coming from. How did you get to Phoenix? Why Phoenix of all places, especially coming from Illinois?
Well, so
I'd be a boy.
Sick of the snow. I mean, in the Midwest, winters were cold. I think the last winter I was there, we had like wind chills of like -30 or something crazy like that.
Yeah.
No more. I never actually did a full season at a golf course. I just did a summer season there, so I never really experienced winters at a golf course, the plowing and out of the irrigation system and everything. So not sure how much I'd like that, but it's really hot out here. I was like, I can do something year round. And my boyfriend's actually, he was the one that first wanted to move out here. He's going to Grand Canyon University.
Oh, there you go.
Now he's like, it's way too hot, and he doesn't care.
So what's worse, the winters in Illinois or the summers in Phoenix?
I don't know. I mean, we don't have any humidity.
Great. It's a dry heat. Yeah, I've heard that too many times. I was in Kansas City. I was in Kansas City this week, and it was 110 degrees and slightly less humidity than it is out here. I mean, Lorabeth, you're from Jersey, but we're suffering through one of the worst droughts and heat spells. It's been 90 plus degrees. It's the worst of New Jersey right now. So I'm thinking you're loving the fact that you're on the West Coast right now.
I was talking to my dad this morning and he was telling me that, and he works outside and he works by the bay. So I can only imagine it's like awful, and the green heads and the mosquitoes and all that. And it's been like 80 degrees and beautiful all week in LA.
I don't want to hear
there's
that
no
anymore.
water, but the weather's great.
I'm editing that part out of this conversation. I don't even want to hear it. It's that bad. Your dad's in landscaping, right?
No, he works for water and sewer. So
okay.
Like
I knew he was doing something that he was
sewer.
outside. I knew he was outside for some reason.
But they do spray. They spray for the mosquitoes and stuff.
Oh boy, that's peak season. Oh, lovely. Yeah, I got off the airplane. I have one of my associates is flying down to Florida right now for a couple of days of R&R, and it's actually cooler in Florida than it is here in. I'm in Pennsylvania, New Jersey. I'm on the Delaware River, but it's 95 today. She's going to be in 82-degree weather in Florida. So go figure. You leave New Jersey or Pennsylvania in the summer and you get cooler in Florida. Let's talk about, you guys have both been, I don't even know the answer to this. I know you both have volunteered at a lot of stuff, and that's really where I started this conversation. I got the chance to run into you guys at the Open this year, which to me was one of the coolest experiences that I've ever seen. And I've talked a lot about it to everybody I have a chance to. I wear my shirt all the time, but let's let Lorabeth start with this. Talk about how cool the Open was. I mean, you've been to a couple of these things, and I'll go backwards, but let's focus on this year's Open. You both volunteered. I know it was a lot of work. And you've been to other events. So tell me what you've been to, but let's really kind of focus on this year's Open.
This was my ninth volunteer experience. So
really?
I've had a lot of really great opportunity. And I've gotten to see a lot as far as, PGA, USGA, women's, men's, and this tournament, this golf course itself, the country club I still think about it, and I have a video of my phone of the rolling fescue seed heads. It was just incredible. I just have never. The golf course was so pure. The fairways, the greens, the greens were incredible. And Dave Johnson, he makes you love your job again. When he comes in the morning and everyone's standing up and they're clapping, it's because they want to. This guy has he had everyone so pumped up and so stoked because he was. And I feel like that's kind of a way that I try to lead. I love to do it. And if people see you love it, they love it. They get excited. So I feel like he just really had a great momentum going for the week. And it just, let's get out there and cross-cut fairways. Yes, Matt calls me Captain Crosscut. I love a cross-cut. Let's do it.
Cross-cut?
Yeah.
That's
Matt's
too funny.
If you double cut, cross-cut, you might pass out. And I'm let's do all the cuts. I love it. So I just that aggression that we're going out, we're going to cross-cut these fairways. It was a really cool experience. I've never been in the meeting situation with that, the director leading from, everyone being so excited about his passion. Yeah. So that was one of the coolest things. And then for, my husband, Dan, to be there also and get to see that. And,
that's cool.
Be Dan, this is what you should try to channel for next year. This is how you motivate a crowd of people to get stuff done.
So your husband, Dan, is the superintendent over LA Country Club, and they're hosting next year's Open. So I got a chance to talk to Dan a little bit. He was pretty stoked. And and needless to say, that'll be a cool experience. Of course, LA Country Club is no stranger to tournaments, but it'll be, it was cool. Hopefully he brings some of the innovation that they kind of brought to this one. Pretty cool. Madison, how many volunteer experiences have you had?
Well, this is only my second year in the industry, so that was my second tournament.
That's pretty good. Seriously.
My first experience last year.
Yeah, and you and let's go backwards a little bit. You got a chance to go to the Open with Troy Flanagan, and how cool was that for you? That was your first experience as a volunteer. That was truly, and I had Lorabeth on with Troy, and it was just, to me, one of the greatest things that I can remember in our industry. It was such a cool thing that got pulled off, and Troy, I give him all the credit in the world for making that happen. But what was the experience like?
Yeah, it was such a great idea. I was really nervous to go because I
Good.
but it was just amazing to have all those ladies there and like his crew joining in on everything. It opened the door. It introduced me to a lot of people. And because I mean, I didn't know anybody out here when I moved. Like I've got no family, I've got no friends. There's nobody. I just made the move and
you're a golf course superintendent. You don't have friends. You're not allowed to have friends.
Right.
You don't know that? That was sign up, on the sign up sheet. You don't get have friends.
I know. I didn't know this, but it actually introduced me to some other ladies that were out here, and that's been great. Like we stay connected and everything. It makes it.
That's one of the coolest things. I mean, I've stayed in touch with a lot of you guys, and you guys know I know Cherie Scarborough pretty well. She's been here with us on the podcast. But the fact that you guys have all kept pretty close friendships. And there was a bunch of you from the Open, right? At the from the Women's Open that came out this year, right? I don't even know how many.
Yeah, Cherie actually picked us all up from the airport. So,
I didn't know that. Of course she did.
Joy, Megan, and Madison got in, I think, the day before me. So Cherie picked them up, and I came in the next morning. Cherie came back from Marblehead to pick me up and brought us back. So we all walked around Marblehead for a while.
That's cool.
Beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
So nice.
Oh, yeah.
So cute.
And then Jessica Lenahan and then Maureen, they were both there, but we didn't see them until we got to the golf course.
You know, I didn't even realize that Jessica was there. And I if you're listening, Jessica, I am so sorry. I only met Jessica once at the Shinnecock Open, but she worked for Kevin Hicks for a while. So of course I know Jessica well.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize, and she must have been, I probably embarrassed myself or insulted her. So if you're listening, Jessica, I am apologizing profusely because I didn't even realize, or I wasn't thinking. And if I did see you and I didn't catch it, I'm sorry. It's my bad. But yeah, there was a pretty cool. How many women were at this year's Open? There was a good slug. You know, there's a half a dozen or more.
Six of us.
Good. Oh, that's cool.
Pretty good. I mean, most of the time it's one or two.
Yeah, hopefully that changes. And I don't even, are the plans for the Women's Open as they move forward, are they going to be similar to what Troy pulled off? Do you know?
I think so. I think with Pebble Beach being 2023, I know Bubba was speaking about also wanting to continue that initiative. So I think that's great. And I think it's close by. So as long as it doesn't hit my aerification week, I hope to be there.
Or you're cross-cutting or you're cross-running.
Yeah.
So Madison, what was your impression of this year's Open? I mean, you're the newbie kind of compared to Lorabeth on this. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was a big platform, a big stage. And like you said, Lorabeth, I mean, I couldn't stop staring at that property. You know, one of the things I loved the most was, you know, you'd look at the bunkers and they have these little eyebrows, you know, these little fescue eyebrows. Yeah. It was just from head to toe, just so perfect. It was beautiful. But Madison, what's your takeaway?
Yeah, it was beautiful. I'm already trying to plan a trip back there because I want to go back and explore a little bit more. But definitely larger scale than the Women's Open at Olympia.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
It's really cool to see. And I just kudos to Tom Irwin. I thought that was awesome that they were able to set up a tent for us to actually watch. You know, what Chris said to me was, he's like, you know, you guys are the ones that are making this happen. He's like, you should get a front row seat to your work. I'm like, that's such a great concept. I know a lot of maintenance buildings aren't in the center of the golf course, but if anybody has a chance to do that, I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, I've never seen that in all the years I've been going to these tournaments. And that was I walked in and you walk in right across from that tent and then you look across 14 fairway and there all you guys are standing on a balcony watching the tournament, you know, in between your work assignments. And how cool is that? And it was a phenomenal, I mean, that was one of the cherished viewing sites on the entire property. I walked
definitely
around.
One of the coolest holes.
Absolutely. It was a great hole. The greens complex, which we couldn't really see really well, but it was up in a little dog leg to the left. But what a great venue. But talk about, I didn't know this until you just told me when we got started, but they actually ran a disc profile on all of you guys. Everybody ran a disc profile while you were there?
Yeah, everyone, they emailed us the link. So everyone got to take it beforehand. And then when we showed up, they had all the information printed out. And then there was a few days of Randy going through it. And we did some breakout groups and things like that. It was really cool.
So for folks that don't know DISC is a personality profile. It's used often in recruiting or interviewing. I use it I've been using it for 20 years. I won't hire anybody without a DISC profile. And DISC it's DISC, and it's a personality thing. Just a quick example: high D is a Type A personality. I'm nothing but D. Is shocking, and apparently you are too, Lorabeth. What did you end up being, Madison?
I believe I was a C.
Okay.
I had my paperwork with me. It's somewhere around here, but.
So what a C is, it's somebody who's attention to detail. And it's funny because in this industry, I think I talk to our agronomists all the time about this. Half the superintendents are these high D folks that are just, going crazy, no attention to detail whatsoever. Don't waste my time with facts and figures. Just tell me what I need to do and move on. And then the high C's are, I need to have some details. I need facts and figures, and it's important. In fact, I do a lot of obviously working with Logan Labs. When we hire people there, we want to have high C's because they have to have attention to detail. Whereas some people are high D's, you've got a combination. But the fact that you had a chance to go through that, we as an industry don't get the opportunity to have that kind of training where you get to do, you get to kind of see that personality. And Randy Jones, who works closely with the Tom Irwin Company, is just phenomenal at this. But when you go through an experience like that, not only do you get to know a little bit more about you, and here's one thing that you guys probably did, because everybody I know does it. They read their profile and they say, no, that's not me. And then everybody around you says, oh no, that's definitely you. And that's what we found. But it gives you an opportunity to kind of know the people that you're working with, and it helps you better understand how to work with them. So these kind of tools we don't get very often, just cutting grass and doing our agronomy work. So it's such a great it was such a great thing that they were able to get you guys in front of somebody like a trainer. And Randy Jones is a sales trainer. He's a personality guy. He's a great resource that hopefully really worked well for you guys. The other cool thing that they pulled off there, which I've talked about a lot, is those sleep benches that they did. Did you guys all do that?
I loved those. That was
the anti-gravity chairs.
Yeah, the one where they put you to sleep for 20 minutes.
Oh yeah. That was interesting. I had my first experience with it was like a little, I think I was so tired that I just went into a black hole. It was I felt myself go into the black hole and then come out of it. It was really strange. And then the second one, I had all sorts of I kept falling during it. And then the guy was telling me afterwards why I was doing certain things like that. And I was doing certain things with my face. And he's like, do you meditate? Because people with meditation do that. And I was like, I don't have time to meditate and I cannot relax enough to meditate. So
I can see that.
I don't, but it's cool. It's just kind of expensive. Otherwise I feel like I would do it, because he said that he will do it on flights or before meetings. And part of it is just being able to kind of clear your mind. So it's a cool concept for sure.
Yeah, so Madison, explain to us what they did. You went through it, and I think I even said something to you when I was at the Open. But explain what it is and how it affected you.
So they had an iPod or a cell phone that they would hook up, and you could listen to different things like meditation. I think there was relaxation or sleeping or something.
No Led Zeppelin, no heavy metal?
Nothing crazy. It was all very calming, soothing music. And you put the eye mask on, and we just laid back in the zero gravity chairs and went to sleep. I don't even remember what mine sounded like because I was so tired the whole time. I got amazing sleep during that.
20 minutes? Is that what it was?
That's what they said, 20 minutes. But the guy said he thinks I went on loop a couple times.
Oh.
I could have been in that chair for a good hour or something.
So Madison, explain to us what the day-to-day is of being a volunteer at the U.S. Open. What was the day like when, especially, once tournament happened? It's a heavy schedule. I can't even imagine doing what you guys did every day for all those days, but walk us through what it was.
Yeah, intense schedule. I think the last shuttles for most of the mornings left at 3:20 in the morning.
You were at Boston College in the dorms? Is that where you guys were? So you're in the dorms for a good 3-4 hours of sleep, and then at 3:30 the bus leaves to go back to the club.
Yep, bus leaves to go back to the club. We'd get to the volunteer tent. Everybody could get their caffeine in and snacks before.
Was that IV? Did they just shoot it into your blood system?
They should have been.
Yeah.
No.
When were you actually on the property? When did you start working at? I mean, you get there at 3:30, 4 o'clock. When are you actually out on the course?
I think we were out by like 4:30, 4:45. What do you think, Laura? I can't remember.
Yeah, it was early.
That time.
Definitely, like I think the morning meeting was like 4, and then we were out there like 4:15, maybe a little later, and then we got lucky on Saturday and Sunday with the later tea times that we didn't have to be there till 5. So we were all like, yes, an hour extra of sleep.
Yeah.
Madison, I saw pictures of you. I think they actually hit social media pushing the greens mower. Is that where you were?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. I did.
That was very cool.
Greens. That was so exciting.
How cool is that? A couple years into the business and you're mowing greens at the US Open. I mean, that's what mom think of you then, you know, and dad.
I was amazed when I got in. I didn't know that they'd be having volunteers mow them. I guess just because my experience at the Olympic Club, you know, they were unionized. So I was one like moving the turning boards. So I didn't get greens at the Olympic Club. So that was really awesome to get that experience here. And I was a little nervous, but like once we got started, I was like, no biggie.
You're a master. Come on.
Backtrack mow.
Yeah. So you get
every morning for a while.
You guys are there. You're working until when? Like 7? When do they get you off property in the morning?
God, we would finish for greens mowers. You know, we each had like 3 greens to mow in the mornings. I think we'd finish around 6:30. Go help get the mowers washed up, and then kind of join in on any extra tasks like fluffing rough. That was a big one that people were out doing for a long time, just to try and get those people to breakfast sooner. Breakfast would be served around like 8:30, 9 o'clock. And then after that, we'd have a little bit of free time. And then we'd have the seminars where they talked about our disc assessments and everything. I think Toro came and had a talk and somebody else, but you know, seminars. And then after that, it was time that you could nap. And so everybody was finding blankets or couches all around there, take a quick nap, get that in, and then have a little time to watch some golf if that's what you wanted to do, or go to the merch tent and then get
a lobster roll.
Go get a lobster roll. I think I spent like $100 in lobster.
Were they good? I didn't have one.
It was
really the first one she ever had. So
really?
It was like, we got to keep going and get them. They had a legal seafoods tent right by across our volunteer tent. It was great.
Like a 5-minute walk.
Yeah, right across 14. I know. I had one of those actually. It was good. That's too funny. Lorabeth, what were you doing? What was your assignment? I don't know what group you were on, to be honest with you.
I like floated all over the place. I rigged some bunkers in the beginning of the week. And then I did quite a bit of hand watering because they were like, who's going to water? And I was like, get me on a hose. You know, I love watering. And I did some greens hand watering. I think that was it. I kind of just floated between the bunkers and watering. And it was a good time though, because I spent a lot of time being able to see the whole golf course.
Yeah.
Whereas like most time you go to a tournament and it's nice because if you're mowing greens, you get to mow greens, and who doesn't like mowing greens, especially as an assistant? You don't get to do the fun jobs anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
But it was cool. You know, I walked the golf course quite a few times and I felt like I got to see it. And I didn't realize until like a little bit later into the week, but it was a combination of the golf courses that were there that made like the US Open golf course. And I thought that was so cool. So cool.
And 14 is not, I don't believe 14 is part of the
No, it's like a combo. Yeah.
Which is kind of cool. It's such a great property. It's one of the old, and the history there is really very, very cool as well, which is kind of neat. So do you guys, what was the afternoon session? When did it start, Lorabeth? When did you guys get back on the course?
Well, earlier, it's always a little easier earlier in the week. You get out there by like 6 or 7 maybe, but as the tee times get later in the week, we did start having to go out at like 7 o'clock, and we would get done 10 p.m. most nights and then get back. Yeah. So you wouldn't wind up going. yeah, you wouldn't wind up going to bed, till like 11:30, and then you're up by like 2:30. So tough. It gets tough. It's easier in the beginning of the week, and then towards the end of the week, it starts to catch up with you a little bit for sure.
Were you guys able to actually sleep when you got back to the dorms? You had to be pretty wired by then, I'm guessing, but you must have also been exhausted.
Yeah, the dorms honestly weren't that bad. I would have to say my biggest complaint about the dorm is that it had like one of those like plastic things on the mattress, and every time you roll over, you wake yourself up because it's so loud.
Crunching, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, those dorms compared to when we were at Shinnecock, we stayed at Stony Brook, and I mean, those dorms were a lot older. So, but there was only like 2 bathrooms in the whole thing. Like at least these were quads. There was like 2 bathrooms and 3 bedrooms. So we each had our own bedroom. Yeah. And then I went to Rutgers, and I mean, you couldn't even touch the ceiling in our dorms because there was asbestos. So It was the nicest dorm I've ever stayed in.
Give me the list of the 9 places you volunteered. Can you do that real quick? Can you roll that off the top of your head?
Yeah. So we have U.S. Open at the Senior Del Paso. I did Wells Fargo.
At Wells Fargo in Charlotte?
When I did Wells, it was actually at Eagle Point the year I did it.
Oh, okay.
So it was like the one year it wasn't at Quail Hollow. I done Sawgrass. I did swinging skirts at Lake Merced. I did Shinnecock. I did the Walker Cup at LACC. And then we did San Francisco, the Country Club.
Did you have to do the LACC one? Were you like obligated?
Well, it was there when I was there. So
your slave labor over there when needed. Yeah,
but I will not volunteer for the 2023 U.S. Open at LACC.
Why?
Because I'm just gonna be the wife in the situation. I just want to sit in the golf cart.
Oh, isn't that nice? How appropriate as that is.
Yeah, I'll help. I mean, there's certain things obviously I got an eye for. So.
Yeah, well, of course you do. You got years of experience now. What's the next one? Do you know? What's your next volunteer gig?
So it would ideally would like to be going up to Pebble Beach for the Women's U.S. Open, because it's also nice, just to get back with some of the women that will be there. And then there's also a new collection of women that will be there. Like when they went to Pines and Needles this year, there was a few women that, had been there before, whatever, but it brought a lot of other new women into our kind of like, we're here too kind of deal. So I think it'll be nice. And then I know Jess Lenahan is going to come to LACC to volunteer.
Oh, good.
For the U.S. Open. Yeah. So I'll see her then.
Jess, who probably hates me because I probably walked right past her.
She was probably sleeping.
She might have been sleeping. I honestly,
an anti-gravity chair. Yeah. She lays low.
Yeah, I would have recognized her. I know that, but also I wasn't expecting her to be there. So what in my head, I just didn't. It's one of those weird things. But
she did back to back because she went to Pines and Needles and then came to.
Oh, did she do Pine Needles? Yeah, we were a sponsor for that, but none of us got a chance. Timing wise, we couldn't get down. So was that open as successful? I mean, was it as many women in the Pine Needles as it was up at Olympic?
I think so. And I think that there was a little bit more, like one of the things you have to remember is sometimes when we all get together as women, there's women on the golf course, but there's also women in the industry.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit different. But women on the golf course, our job is a little bit different. So I do think that at Pines and Needles, there was more women on the golf course that were able to be there.
Oh, very cool.
Which is cool.
What did you guys think of Dave Johnson getting the E.J. Marshall Award?
Well deserved.
Yeah,
that is cool. That is really, really cool. That's like one of those things that I feel like you see, and that's like, like one of the goals I feel like I have right now is like, I want to host the U.S. Open, but like, I mean, on top of that goal, like, like you see something like that, you're like, one of those things that makes you be like, I wish I could do that. I want to do that. I'd like to be like, I'd like to get there someday.
What was the scuttlebutt of the crew? Did you guys know that this was happening at the time? I didn't know it, but did you guys know it was going to happen?
No, we were gone.
I don't think anyone did. Yeah, I saw it off of Twitter. I was already back home.
And I didn't. I mean, I talked to a lot of people. I didn't know anything about it. I'm going to read this because I don't know if a lot of folks don't even know what this award was. But this is actually a release from the USGA, and it reads this way. It says, "How did an attorney from Toledo, Ohio, become a pivotal figure in golf agronomy? Such is the tale of E.J. Marshall, which is the name of the award, who in 1920 was the chair of the Greens Committee at the Inverness Club as that year's U.S. Open drew close. He tried to locate agronomic advice when patches of dying turf appeared on the greens. After coming up empty, he approached the USGA and the United States Department of Agriculture for help. And later that year, the USGA formed the Greens section to provide course care expertise, which it still does today. So he's generally recognized as the father of the USGA Greens section, and this is the first award. I thought it was. I mean, it's long overdue for you guys. Everybody that works their tails off like you folks do in this industry to have that kind of recognition. And I was sitting there, I had just gotten home, sitting in the couch, probably drinking a beer and watching the tournament, and it was over. And usually by the time it's over, you get up and you leave or you go cook dinner or whatever. And I just happened to stay. And then they were doing the announcements, and then they showed Dave and this award. And I mean, literally brought a tear to my eye. It was so cool. But I love the fact that that's an aspiration of yours, Lorabeth, that someday you'll have that.
Oh, I always feel like I'm looking for the next big thing. Like, what can I, what is achievable and like what is desirable in a sense. And I just feel like that. I mean, he is so deserving. Like I just feel like I see a lot of like of myself in that. Like I can appreciate his passion and determination and like his love of the golf course.
That's fantastic. I mean, I think that's, it really was quite touching that, you watch the British Open, you always see them, announcing the Greens group and they always get recognition, but to have an award like this and show that level of recognition is, again, long overdue. And I love how they came up with the E.J. Marshall Award. I think it's just a great, recognition piece. Let's talk about what it's like being an assistant superintendent. And Madison, let me start with you because you're the newest to this. What's the day-to-day like? I mean, what are you doing out there in the desert you're actually technically a second assistant? Is that your title?
Yeah, I would be like fourth in command. So
okay,
not there. And then the first
you've only been in the business 3 years now, right?
2.
2 years. So you're still new.
2.5-ish. Yeah. So I'm really new to it. And like there's still a ton to learn. And I actually applied to Texas Tech University in Penn State. So
to get your turf degree.
I'm gonna start. Yeah.
Good for you.
Bachelor's in turf.
Good for you. Would they both be online or would you actually go?
I would do online so I could stay working here.
Okay. Hence the reason you're not considering Rutgers.
Yes,
I had to throw a cheap pitch.
It'd be the best option, but I understand you need to.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Thank you for supporting me on that.
No, I wanted to find somewhere that I could stay here and work because I'm gaining lots of great experience. I mean, we're doing stuff left and right. We've always got test plots out for something. We have this cool new project that we're working on this summer. I think August, like beginning of August, we're actually doing this whole sod project where we're taking our 8 fairway. We ripped all of the sod out. It's gone. All
really?
The grass is gone. And
you did that in the middle of the summer?
Yes. And
it's 110 degrees out there with no humidity?
Yeah, it was 115 last week for airification week, so that was awesome. But
it's a dry heat.
It's a dry heat. It's just like an oven.
It's 100. It's an oven, but it's dry.
Yeah. This project, I'm really excited to see it unfold. There's a lot of issues with like Arizona water management. They're trying to cut back on any courses that are above 90 acres on what their water usage can be. So we're looking at like the last few years, even before I've been there, we've had zoysia grass test plots and different Bermuda grass test plots that they've been testing for drought resistance and a bunch of other things. And now we're finally taking those test plots and putting them on one of the fairways so that the membership can play off of it and kind of give us their input on what they think is best. So we'll have, actually, I can can draw up kind of a little thingy. Okay. So we'll be having, for zoysia grass wise, we'll be doing Primo, Trinity, Xeon, and Stadium.
Oh, wow.
Bermuda grass, it's going to be Tiff Tuff and Tahoma. And we've got like...
There's your notes. Most people are listening to this, but that's good. I like that. I love the fact that
if you can see it.
I can tell you're a high C, though. That's kind of funny. That's very good. So all those grasses are already in play and on property. You're already looking at them?
Not yet. We're supposed to sod like first or second week of August, and then they'll probably be, ready for people to play on, like probably after overseed, I'm thinking.
Right. That's a big select. I mean, there's a lot of great varieties out there now. I mean, Tiftoff is, it's big in the sports turf industry, but I was just out at the Philadelphia Eagles and he's loving Tahoma. So.
Oh, go Birds.
Yeah, exactly. I did a little seminar in the stadium with Tony's crew. So it was kind of neat. And I'm a Giants fan, but don't hold that against me. Yeah, I know.
At least you're not a Cowboys fan.
Yeah, exactly. See, we have something in common. That's all you look for is common ground, right? So Madison, what as the second assistant, what input do you have in water management? I mean, can you have any kind of control over water management? I mean, that's a big issue. It's going to be in your lives, the both of you. It's probably going to be the biggest single issue that we talk about is how do we manage water? How do we conserve water? And certainly where you guys are, both of you, it's going to be number one for the rest of your career. You'll never get away from it. Is there anything that you can do personally? I mean, as a second assistant, as an assistant on a property to help that?
For me, basically, I'm helping implement what Rob wants. I mean, Rob is on like these water committees, and he's going to these meetings to, kind of express concerns to what Arizona wants to do. And we're pretty much, I don't know if you're familiar with Pogo technology. Like we'll be out there with the Pogos.
Yeah, that's a great tool.
I think the guy that started that, I believe his name's Carmen.
Yes, man. Yeah, he's a Penn Stater. We know Carmen well.
Yeah. Carmen said that I think we're like first or second in the lead for most like Pogo readings in a day. I think. Oh
wow, there you go. Are you looking? Are you looking at EC? I mean, you're looking at salts as well as moisture content.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you're managing that on a regular basis. Let me ask you a silly question, and I ask every superintendent that I talk to on the podcast. I think the biggest challenge of a superintendent in training somebody, and coming from your angles, both of you as assistants, how do you learn how to water? What's the art of watering is truly an art. How do you learn that? I mean, Madison, how did you learn? I mean, I know you've been pulling hoses, so it's got to be a tough one when you're especially coming from Illinois to Arizona. How do you learn how to water? And maybe better yet, how do you now teach this same skill to the next generation of assistants that you guys are going to be managing?
So when I was brought in for training, they wanted to get me on hand watering and everything. Basically, took me around and they're like, see these purple spots? They're like, we want to hit those.
First, I'll get the stuff that's dying. Yeah.
Yeah. Get the stuff that's working on that. And just kind of TDRs and the Pogos are your tool to kind of know,
right?
Like we like to keep greens at around 25%. It's like the sweet spot that Rob wants those at.
Have you ever been yelled at for watering badly?
Not yet.
But you're expecting it to someday.
Right.
Lorabeth, how do you teach a guy or a person, whoever it might be, to water? I mean, it's a tough thing to, and it's so important. I mean, but how do you teach that? I mean, your environment is a little bit different than Madison's, but it's still pretty nasty.
It's tough. It depends what you're watering. It takes time. It's experience. For me, watering greens, it can be easy, but it takes time because there is a special art to watering greens, especially out west.
Is it teachable?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the easiest thing to teach someone how to water is sod because you can't overwater sod.
Yeah,
and then
that's good.
I think the hardest thing for us to really teach is we have ryegrass. So obviously you have ryegrass, you can get gray leaf spot, and we get salt-induced wilt.
Yeah. Sodium induced wilt. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's hard to kind of, like this is dry, this is disease, like this is starting to wilt because of the salt. So it's, sometimes you'll see, it's hard to fine tune that water, like it's hard to teach everyone what looks a certain way in, I think, the ryegrass I find is most difficult.
Let's talk about that, because we talk a lot about that here at EarthWorks. Sodium induced wilt is when the percentage of sodium actually creeps higher than other things like potassium, for example. So a lot of times you can get salt-induced or sodium-induced wilt, even when you don't have a lot of sodium if your potassium levels fall. But the subtle difference is for you guys, I mean, you're sitting there looking at this and it's wilting. And, a lot of folks will look at wilt and say, oh, it's water, and start to add more water. And in fact, it's the water that's bringing the sodium to the table that's causing the sodium-induced wilt. So how do you teach a young superintendent the difference between those two things?
Well, I think that one of the things that's helping us is definitely the drone and being able to
look
at because it's interesting when you look in certain areas, like a couple of the surrounds or whatever, when they come back on the NDVI or the thermal camera, they're not really showing you either one of, it doesn't look like it's a water issue. It doesn't look like it's a plant health issue. So I feel like sometimes it's easier to be like, okay, this looks like it's like more of like a diseased area. And it sounds like a little crazy, but like once we've been flying for a couple of weeks now. And also, I mean, I drive around and we have spots that over the past couple of years, like these are spots that we have to watch kind of deal. So like that definitely helps, but some of it's just kind of being out in the field, and it's also just who's receptive to the information.
Yeah. So you can tell by looking at that data, those photographs, the hot spots.
Yeah. It's interesting too, because like we have some of the fairways that just like, they're kind of weak because there's nothing in the soil still. And like we get fertilized. We put like 8 pounds of nitrogen on our top fairways last year, and like you get the soil report back and there's nothing in the soil. So it just doesn't, it's one of those things where it like looks dry all the time, but a bigger part of it is that there's just like nothing there. Like it needs more EarthWorks.
Yes, it does. Thank you for that cheap plug. Yes. Can you tell the difference on those pictures of where some of your carbon fertilizers are versus the areas that haven't been?
Not really yet. I think that we just still have a lot of other problems. And I think that because of our water restrictions right now, we're mostly on all of our groundwater. They haven't regulated groundwater, but they've regulated city water. And they're still trying to go through some of it. There's a water summit coming up here talking about it, but we haven't been able to mix our water as much. So I also just think with us putting more of our bad water out there, like you can just see it in the plants. The plants just like not as receptive to it at all. Yeah. Like it's just not going in.
That's so cool that you're using all that technology. I mean, I've worked with that technology, and we have actually been able to see, kind of straight lines where carbon-based fertility is and where it isn't, because it changes some of the soil. But most of that really ultimately comes about because of moisture. It's holding more moisture in the soil, so it's a little cooler. But this is certainly going to be a big issue for you guys as you get and through your career, because water is it's never going to get better. It's going to always be a problem. And do you both get a chance to look at the soil test data? Do you see any of that, Madison? Are you there yet? You got a chance to see any of that kind of stuff, or is this you're too young in your career?
I have the first assistants I work with. He'll send me like emails and stuff when I'm asking questions and everything. And
keep asking questions, by the way. Don't ever stop.
Yes, I ask lots of questions.
Good.
But I've had a chance to look at like, I think it's like some from last year or something, but I hope to in the coming years get more in depth with that. And as I get education,
well, especially if you go back to school, you're going to get a lot of that.
Yeah.
You'll get to really start to study that. And if you want, I'll send you some books. How's that? I'll send you some
yes,
some
I would
propaganda soil books that you can study up on some of that. Let me ask both of you. You're going to, so if you're not there now, I know Lorabeth, you probably are, but what do you look for when you're looking to hire or when you're bringing on an assistant superintendent? Lorabeth, you can start that, because I think you've actually been there a little bit. When you're interviewing somebody, you've been there, you know what to expect, you know what you're looking for. How do you vet somebody that might be coming in?
I think you have to see what their like what their goal is, especially being somewhere in LA. Like you do find people that are, like, do you want to be on the golf course or do you want to be in LA? Like, where is it that you're trying to be? And then
I hadn't thought of that.
That's a big part of it.
Yeah.
And then also just like asking in certain scenarios, like given the scenario situation, like, what would you do here? Like, how would you react? Because I was actually, during when we brought in, there's 2 assistant directors at Hillcrest, and the equipment manager, Oscar, and I were part of an interview for when we were hiring. So we did 2 interviews, and, between the 2 interviews, you could just tell one of them was like very put together and, like had questions they wanted to ask, like they were intrigued by it. And, I was like, do you speak Spanish? No, but I speak French. And Alex, our assistant, was like, I'm willing to learn. And he's got a dictionary and rides around with it. And like his Spanish is more proper than mine, but he's getting to it. And the other person that we were interviewing, like you could just kind of see that they just wanted to be an assistant. They just wanted like responsibility, but I didn't see as much of like the passion and the care behind it.
Yeah. One of the
especially being out here, I mean, you got to be a little committed because there's no days off in a sense in LA or Arizona too.
I never even thought about the LA the connection there. So, you got people that just want to be in that area.
I don't know why.
You're getting a lot of like wannabe actors or something, models.
I have no idea. There's just homeless people everywhere. It's just like not that nice. Gas is over $6 a gallon. Like what is so desirable?
Oh, it's coming down. It's only $5.95 now. Come on.
You send me some.
It's $4.50 here. Come back to Jersey.
And you got Wawa, so
and I was there yesterday. I got gas and a hoagie at Wawa yesterday. So there you go. Just want to make you jealous. Madison, I don't know if you've had a chance to get involved in interviewing anybody, but what kind of advice? I mean, you've done this now a couple of years. You've been in it, and I mean, it had to be scary at first. But what kind of advice would you give anybody coming into the industry? That might have an interest in wanting to make this a profession.
I would just have to say, give it a try. I mean, that was basically what Rob did for me. He gave me the option and he said, I don't know if you like this or not, but just give it a go. And, just kind of have to put your best foot forward. And it's a lot of work. Like especially out here, if you want to make it in the summers. I did detasseling in Illinois, and I worked on farms and stuff. Like I was used to being outside, but
it's not Phoenix.
Have some sort of experience working outside to make it through a full summer here. I think. So,
I mean, and Lorabeth, you mentioned this. I mean, you mentioned Dave's passion. I mean, how do you bring that passion to the course every day? I mean, it's I think it's imperative to any job. And why would you not want to be, why would you want to be working at anything that you don't have a passion for? But how do you bring that every day, especially in what you folks do? Because it can be, just draining,
Yeah, it definitely can be. But I think the biggest part is like, you gotta get your crew motivated, and I love it. So I come in every day and I'm like, are you guys ready to party? Are we ready to do this? And like, a couple of days of the week, like, Sunday, fun day, we got Divertido Domingo, and like everyone knows it's Sunday, fun day. But Monday we're closed. So Monday is like a little bit more fun. And everyone also knows that.
Ooh,
and certain things like, when I drive by the guys, if we're doing something, I'll give them like a little, yeah. And then the guys, they see me and then they do it back. So it's just like we're getting it done. Like if you ride around and like, it's what you put out to the team, right? So if you ride around, you smile, you say hello, and like certain things like that. And if you are in a positive mood and, and you make yourself available, like a lot of our team members have questions like, you're mowing this, you're doing this special assignment today. Let me give you a radio. If you have a question, give me a call. You make yourself available. So everyone seems to have a lot more like trust and respect in you. And honestly, when they see how much you love it, they love it. And it's a big part of it. Like if everyone is just like miserable every day and they're like, yeah, go mow the grass.
Yeah.
No one's going to be that happy. And like it's working in a 365 environment, motivation is important, really important.
Yeah. That's fantastic advice. I mean, I've always loved your enthusiasm, and obviously everybody around you does too. Madison, how are you going to keep this thing going for the next 20 years of your life? You think you're going to stick with it? I shouldn't say that because I know Rob's listening.
No, I hope to stick with it. I definitely know I'll have to, after getting my education, kind of figuring out what turf grass I want to work with. I think I'll have to make that decision, whether I want to stay the full 365 working out here, overseed all of that stuff, or if I'm going to want to do more of Northeast, Midwest style turf grass.
New England's got lobster
winters.
rolls.
I'd have to go back for the winters. So that's definitely, I'll have to make that decision. But right now.
Yeah. See, I love the winter. I would much rather have winter than what you're going through right now at 115 degrees.
I mean, my endurance is great from working out here in this right now. So I think, stick it out a few more years. I've only been here 2 years, so I still have time to kind of acclimate. I don't think I'm necessarily there yet. I mean, Rob's been there 27 years. The first assistant's been there 19 years.
Wow.
Something that's keeping them out here.
Rob said to me that you have a very bright future. So hold on to that. And I encourage you, we're pushing that hour, but let me ask you both. I mean, how do you encourage, say you talk to one of your best friends, how would you encourage them to come into this industry? Madison? I mean, everybody must be asking, you're doing what? You're doing what?
Yeah, it's a hard thing to explain until you're out there. I mean, I didn't really know all of the stuff that went into keeping golf course maintained when I started this.
Who knew?
Science behind it. Who would have known? And explaining that to people is kind of fun because they're like, what? You have to do that? And I know I went home last year and one of my uncles asked me, he's like, so do they let you mow greens yet? I'm like, what do you think I'm doing out here? I train people to mow greens.
Yeah, not only am I doing it, I'm training.
You're right. Explaining it to people, talking about, I think it's definitely easier to talk to people who have more of an understanding of the golf course, who play. It's easier for them to kind of have an appreciation for that and some interest because they realize, the playing conditions that they have, it has to
that's becoming, what you just said is becoming one of the most focused recruiting tool is, folks talking to people and they really are asking, do you play golf? Do you love the game? And, I'm beginning to become a believer in this, is that, to have somebody on the crew that loves the game of golf, there's a why you're here, they get to play. Mm-hmm. Lorabeth, what do you tell your friends? First of all, I'm sure they all ask you, you're doing what? You're in LA doing what? You're not a movie star. You're not, on TV, you're cutting greens how do you encourage somebody to kind of get into this business?
I think that one, they see my passion about it too. So I think it makes it a little bit more intriguing because I know when you talk to some people about their jobs, they don't seem like they're so sold on what they do maybe, but they probably do it just because they make a good bit of money or they're just miserable. And I don't know why they do something that they're not happy with.
Thank you.
But I also just think that the golf course, I have the burning desire to host a first green thing, and it's going to help, some of the one is, spray tech that I'm doing the assistant certification, mentoring him through. But I think starting at the golf course, there's so many little kids running around. They play tennis and golf all day. Yeah. And some of them don't even realize what we're doing. And I feel like a lot of them, they could be doctors and lawyers and stuff too, but being a grass grower isn't bad. They just don't know about it.
I don't know a lawyer that I've ever worked with in the 35 years of my career that hasn't said to me, can you get me a job on the golf course? Because I hate being a lawyer and I would love to be out there. I hate to say this, but we are out of time. And Lorabeth, I love your passion for this. And Madison, I'm so excited for you. And, like I said, I do believe you have a bright future. And one of the neat things about what we're doing in the industry is there's lots of opportunities, even if it's not, pushing a mower. I mean, you guys both have huge careers in front of you, and I can't wait to help support Lorabeth, your first Open championship when you are the superintendent, and
thank you.
I get to come out and hang out on the porch.
I'll let you send up the 10. How about that?
I'll be more than happy to do that. I would be more than happy to do it. Thank you both so much for joining me. Like I said, Madison, I know you're about to run away to go home, but good luck with everything that you're doing. And next time I talk to you, I'm sure I'll know where you're going to get your degree from, because that sounds like you're well on your way. And Lorabeth, congrats again on everything. And I will probably see you. Well, you guys should come to the President's Cup. We're going to be sponsoring down there in a couple of weeks down at Quail Hollow. It'll be a kind of a cool little event, but I think that's my next go around. But I'm sure I'll see you somewhere at one of the tournaments, because I know you both are going to continue to do that somewhere along the line. And again, I commend and congratulate you, and I love the enthusiasm. So, and thank you for coming on and spending some time with us here on the EarthWorks podcast.
Thank you for having us.
And that, my friends, is the EarthWorks podcast. Please be a subscriber, because if you are a subscriber, we'll send you notes telling you that we got really cool people on that we're talking to and some interesting things. So if you're not a subscriber, please be a subscriber, and we will see you with somebody here next week on the EarthWorks podcast.